welcome back to 13C. Today, the 507C from Holosun. This is I'm just going to close this down because this barrel on this G34 rattles when it's locked back. So this is a pistol mounted red dot or a micro red dot sight, depending on what you want to, how you want to reference it. Technically, it's not an RMR because an RMR is a brand name from a different company. This does sit and use the exact same plate and mounting type options as the actual RMR, so that is really nice as that you're going to have a lot of cross-platform options as far as mounting this. I'm actually using the RMR plate on this Glock 34, the MOS plate, and it mounts up fine. It sits in there really nicely and does a really good job. The rear sights, as you notice, are off of this because the red dot that was on here before this actually has two spots in the back, locking screws for when you try and adjust it. You have to unlock those, so you can't use that thing. It's a nice feature on this one. There's none of those annoying locking screws back there that are found in some of the lower end optics. I find those things infuriating, and I think it's bizarre still in 2019 that those things are actually done. When they first came out, I get it. Now, I don't. Anyway, I'm not a manufacturer. You need lower price point optics, which we are going to be covering. We do have another, we are going to be covering some more micro red dot sights here over the next couple of months. We've got another one in for testing right now. And we've got a third one that we're going to get because we've had so many questions about these. We're going to try and cover the spectrum. This one we had a ton of questions on. This one's been in the longest, and that's why we're starting out our kind of series, if you will, with this 507C. This was actually came in from Optics Planet for testing for us, so thank you to them, and we'll have links for them down below, as well as a code to save you a little bit of green if you decide on picking one of these up. So the Holosun falls price range right in the middle, but in my opinion with features it skews more toward the higher end for features, even though it falls about in the middle for price point. This is a pretty tough optic for what it is. You've seen it on several different firearms now over the past almost 4 months, at least 4 months actually, right at 4 months, whatever. 4 months, we're gonna go with that. Everything from other handguns to 9mm carbines and everywhere in between. So we've had it out here in weather from 0 degrees in the snow, which we discovered really the one biggest fatal flaw of this optic. In automatic, it has 12 brightness settings. 10 daylight and 2 night vision. In automatic mode, you cannot access the night vision settings. You have to put it in manual mode, which is fine. But in automatic mode, I found with this, it only goes to level 9. It does not go to 10. And one of the issues, the only time we've had this issue is in the bright winter snow with snow-covered ground on a target, which had an orange bull, for example. Presenting it out with full sun now coming down onto this solar collector, which also is the ambient light sensor. It only went to 9 and it washed out on the target, and this was full sun hitting it, full sun on the target, everything was the same. It wasn't like we're in the shadows like we are here now, and it completely washed out. You have to kick it into manual mode. Now, is that a big deal for those one-off situations? If you could just hit the plus button and it automatically kicked it up to the next level, absolutely not. I would be, maybe not perfectly fine with it, but I would feel much better about it because those are very limited one-off situations. However, in order to turn this off, you have to push and hold the minus button for 5 seconds. Not a big deal. We don't want the optic to automatically get turned off on accident. But to turn it into manual mode so that you can increase the brightness, you have to push and hold that plus button for 5 seconds. That is way too long in my opinion for something like that, especially on something that bills it out as something you can use for self-defense and concealed carry. I would, obviously, Glock 34 is going to be a little bit long for that, but you could obviously put it on a Glock 19 or smaller handguns. You know, it's not relevant to, we're talking about the optic, not necessarily the larger handgun that this is on right now. So I would really like to see them change that in future models so that when you push and hold that button, when you push it, it automatically goes up, or maybe have like a 1 second hold on it, right? Not this crazy, not 5 seconds. Not for the application this is partially being marketed toward, which would be self-defense, concealed carry, and even there's some law enforcement agencies that are testing and using this. Why is it important that you could just say, we'll just carry it in manual mode. Well, good and bad, right? Then you have to worry about adjusting it up and down on the fly, so to speak. That's one of the things I love about the automatic mode on a lot of these Holosuns. Right now, we're in the shade. You can tell looking kind of behind through the trees, it is a bright sunny day out there. When I press out and I'm looking out, I have a white target out there about 50 yards away. I can put this dot on it, even though I'm in the shade, the white target is in the bright sun, I can still put it on there and I can still pick it up right now. So what I'm talking about with the snow is a one-off situation, but it can happen. And if you've got all your cards deck stacked against you in a self-defense situation, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Most self-defense situations are going to be really up close, obviously, but you can't count on that. What happens if it's not? I'm digressing into other topics, but I really felt like that was the biggest issue that I wanted to point out with this optic that I found, and hopefully in future versions they will address, be able to address that. Life goes, depending on where you're looking in the manual versus online on the website, you're looking at 50,000 to up to 100,000 hours on one 2032 battery. Now, part of that, I'm sure, is going into the fact that this is a solar backup, meaning that if your battery dies, as long as you have enough ambient light, this optic is still going to function thanks to that solar collector on the top here. There also features a shake awake feature. I've tested this many times on a number of different Holosun optics we've had in. You set it down on something stationary, it'll turn itself off automatically. The second you move it, the second you go to just put your hand on the grip, there's enough movement there that it automatically wakes up and turns on, which is awesome. I think that is a huge benefit and huge improvement over some other optics which have an auto on-off feature, but they require a specific motion to turn it on. Most of those are the advances in those are coming a long way. But I like the fact that, let's say, you know, I'm napping on the couch and I have to do some kind of unconventional draw because somebody kicks down the front door, right? I like the idea that when you touch it, it comes on. Now, the only drawback to that is going to be if you're carrying it, leaving it in a vehicle versus leaving it, let's say, in a safe. It's not going to turn itself off unless you're completely still for a long enough period of time, or the vehicle is completely still for a long enough period of time. It's that sensitive. Again, I'd much rather err on the side of being on than being off. So your adjustments here, I mentioned you do not have to come in the back and release any kind of set screws to adjust it. You just adjust from the top or the side like you would any other standard red dot, and they're half MOA adjustments on here. Weather rating wise, I talked about earlier about being in the snow. We shot it out here, or shot with it being on firearms out here as low as 0 degrees over this winter. And now I think the hottest it's been out here has been about 50 degrees. Right now I think it's about 40. But in any event, we haven't tested the upper end of the spectrum, which is 140 degrees Fahrenheit. And then on the lower end of the spectrum, it's rated down to -22. We haven't tested that either. Water rating, it's rated at IPX8, and in one spot, in another spot, it's rated IPX7. IPX7 is that 1 meter underwater for 30 minutes. IPX8 is set by the manufacturer, so it should, generally speaking, be at least IPX7 if it's an IPX8 rating. We don't know what that is because I can't find that anywhere. It does have 2 little drain holes in here, so it can drain out of both sides. If you're in the rain or you come up out of the water or something, you can at least have your water drain out of here. Those are small holes, so I don't know exactly how well they're going to drain. I tried messing with it and playing with it, doing some small submergence, and as far as for normal clean tap water, it seemed to free itself pretty easily. These are relatively small holes, so if you're going into some kind of debris-filled water, they're probably going to get clogged up on you, in which case you would obviously just need to dump it out and shake it over, or whatever the other case may be. Fatal flaw for any red dot like that where collectors are. I mean, it is, unless you're talking about one that's totally encased. There you go. Not specific to this one, but it's worth noting. So this is rated as being shockproof. I'm not actually sure what that means. There's no rating for how many, you know, if it's feet, meters, anything along those lines. I will say that what we've seen here, and we're just going to do a really quick one right here from here. I'll let you guys see. Well, I'm 6'3", so we'll do it right from about, say, this is where I would actually use the gun. So let's say it's worst case scenario right now. Dot's still working, everything's fine in there. Can you see that? Oh my goodness. There we go. Cool. All right, still working, no crack. Obviously, we're on semi-hard grass, and I don't know how much of that hit a pine cone or not. In any event, we're fine from that regard. I'm not going to be dropping and throwing this thing on concrete, like I said, because that's not what I want to do to destroy this optic. I actually want to use it and get some use out of this and see how it holds up longevity-wise over the next several months into the end of the year. I want to come back on this next year and see how it's held up as it's cycled through a ton of rounds. We're going to wind up putting this on one of our guns that we use for some suppressor testing throughout the year, and we're just going to run the bejesus out of this and see how it holds up long term as opposed to shorter, more destructive type testing. So I think that covers most of the technical specs. Let's get back out on the range. All right, so I definitely need some work on those smaller targets. Also, I don't know if you noticed it at the end there, but I had a definite drastic flinch on that empty chamber. So coming off of so after that long cold winter, not only did it affect my shooting by having my flinch come back with a vengeance, if you saw at the end of that last clip, it also killed one of my battery packs. No warning or anything, just boom, battery dead. So I'm going to mark that when I get inside with the Sharpie to let it know that battery is basically toast and could go out at any minute, and get that out of the rotation. Anyway, zipping along, doing just fine, and then of course, as be seen, dropped out. That last round had a noticeable flinch in it, so that is something that generally speaking is best remedied by dry practice. That's one of the best ways to eliminate that I've found for myself. I'm going to be working more with this. There's some other cool target training aids that I'm going to be using as well in some future videos so that I can eliminate those flinches, and hopefully by doing that, get these guys where they need to be. Otherwise, let's get out here, just do some more shooting. Let's hit some steel. Let's just run and gun on some steel here and have some fun with that. Just take a break from this. Man, you gotta love this bright winter sun out here messing with our white balance. I'm doing the best I can here today. But really quick, I wanted to talk about, since we've got it on this 2245 light, this Ruger Mark IV, I wanted to talk about the differences of a red dot on a pistol versus on a rifle. And I just want to touch on this briefly, since this is one of the first handgun mounted ones specifically that we're doing here on the channel. It's a world of difference. Don't expect you're going to pick up the handgun and it's all going to be sudden going to make you a better shooter because you've got a red dot on it. You've only got 2 points of contact out here, as opposed to with a rifle you have multiple points of contact. You're bringing your cheek to a consistent point every time. Now because there's minimal parallax on this, depending on where you have the red dot in the window, it's not going to affect your point of aim, point of impact significantly, but it's actually learning to pick up that dot when you press out every time. And then of course there's, if you're off-eye dominant, if you're trying to shoot with both eyes open, there's a number of different things here, and you're going to have to practice with it. So it's on this 22 caliber pistol. I can shoot this thing all day, dirt cheap, and it allows me to get in those repetitions I need to get back and more comfortable with pistol mounted red dot optics. Anyway, it's just something for your consideration. If you have one and you've already got a pick mount for it, you may want to actually put, if you're just getting into this, you may want to put it on something like this so that you can get hundreds of rounds through it, so you can get up a little bit more competency with it before putting on a center fire handgun. And obviously you can do it either way. It's just going to be a little cheaper if you put it on the 22. Anyway, that's my tidbit for the day. Let's while it's back on here again, let's have some fun with it before it gets moved over. Huh. Ah, and I didn't pick up the dot. Oh man, check that out. Well, this thing may be getting dirty. It may need to be cleaned. Anyway, good old 2245 Ruger. There you go. So as we're wrapping up the day here, you know, I know I'm going to get a lot of questions, and I have already, and I've been hesitant to, and I'm going to address them as best I can. But I like to compare apples to apples and oranges to oranges. It's not fair to compare something, in this case a Holosun, to let's say something that's almost twice the price. Likewise, going down and comparing this to something that's significantly less expensive isn't exactly fair either. So I'm going to try and speak directly to this and do the best I can here. So bear with me with this and understand that that's why I shy away from a lot of these comparisons, because I really like to stick apples to apples. So in regards to this, my purpose for getting this was to put it on a bedside handgun that would be suppressed with a light. In that regard, and suppressor height night sights. In that regard, I don't think I had any problem using it for that purpose. This is, it's held up very well. We've seen the torture that guys like Aaron Cohen with Sage Dynamics have done to it. I know that after a ton of rounds of this being on different firearms, it's still going strong, no point impact shift. I've dropped it not on concrete, but I have dropped it a few times and I have bashed it around a little bit, not trying to destroy it, but just trying to test a little bit of its shock rating. Because I actually want to run this, and I'm going to continue to run this over the next several months into the end of the year for a full 1 year look at this to see how it's done. I'm going to use it on with a number of different silencers. We'll have testing it with on different handguns and stuff. So I really want to get this used over a longer period rather than just trying to destroy this thing out of the gate. Like I said, it's been in from Optics Planet for about 4 months. You can check down below for the link, as well as a coupon code that'll save you off anything at Optics Planet, not just off this. Special thank you to them for extending that discount to our subscribers. What else would I use it for? I carry appendix inside the waistband if I'm carrying a full-sized handgun. It's more comfortable that way. It prints less. Now, obviously, I wouldn't carry G34. I'd be carrying a Glock 19, let's say. But in that regard, this thing isn't going to be bashed or beaten up against anything. And for a everyday carry, for someone who is not using it in the line of duty where I'm beating things up all the time, I don't think I'd have a problem carrying this in that regard either. You know, the off chance of getting into a scuffle, using it, dropping it from 6 feet to cause a glass to crack, you still use it at that point, as we've seen in several different destructive tests. I just don't see this thing getting abused enough in really one of those scenarios for that to matter. And of course, I'm not going to war. I've never been to war. Hopefully I don't ever go to war. But it's not like after whatever, if the glass is cracked but still usable, it's not like I can't just replace it later after the incident and move on and get another one or warranty it or whatever the case may be for it. So it's not a end of the world type of optic, but for its intended purposes and its price point, I don't think I'd have a problem with that, especially if you're just trying to get into a pistol mounted red dot and you don't have the cash to go all the way, but you don't want to get into one of the more entry ones. You want something that's going to stick with you as you progress through it. Anyway, if you are starting out in the entry market, you really want to get started, if you do get one of the lesser expensive ones, throw it on a little Mark II 22, right? And try it that way. Anyway, I'm digressing. Subscribe if you haven't already, and hit that notification bell, because we're going to be doing more micro red dot sights. We have another one in for testing right now. We have another one that's going to be on the way. And we're going to kind of run the gambit here from entry level, medium to the big dog, so to speak, and give you our opinions on those as we progress through. Thanks again, everyone. We're doing a giveaway on our newsletter. Subscribe to our newsletter if you haven't already. We're doing another Geisley Trigger giveaway. That will be Independence weekend. We're going to be doing that. So definitely sign up for the newsletter if you haven't. We won't spam you out. We send about 1 email every 10 days. This month, we're at the end of March. It's March 27th today. And we only sent out 1 email so far this month. So We won't flood you out, we promise. Thanks again, everyone. Take care, stay safe. We'll talk soon.